2023 was quite the year for MMA. We watched Francis Ngannou leave the UFC, sign with the PFL, and score a blockbuster boxing match with Tyson Fury. We saw Jon Jones, arguably the greatest fighter of all time, return from a years-long hiatus to become a two-division champion. One championship finally came to the USA. After months of rumors and speculation, the PFL actually bought Bellator. The MMA landscape is a tectonically different place than it was this time last year. We also got some really good fights. As is always the case, many of the best fights of the year were in the UFC's octagon, where the bulk of the sport's top talent still resides. The world-class fighters on the promotion's roster produced some legitimate classics that we'll probably still be talking about into the next decade. Watch on to see your 5 favorites. First off is CJ Vergara versus Daniel Lacerda at UFC San Antonio. It's rare to see a fight tick absolutely every box. A great storyline, consistent action, and dramatic momentum swings. It was a genuinely marvelous fight that had my heart pounding like no other this year. With a stunning knockout on Dana White's Contender Series in 2021, CJ Vergara was able to secure a contract with the Ultimate Fighting Championship. However, in his first 3 fights inside the renowned octagon, he has a record of 1-2. In the beginning of this year, he was included on the roster of the UFC San Antonio event, and because he was the only local fighter on the card, he absolutely stole the show. As part of the preliminary bouts for the UFC San Antonio event, Vergara faced off against Daniel Lacerda. Immediately after the fight began, the boisterous crowd showed their support for the local fighter, and they were rewarded with a remarkable victory. Silva thoroughly dominated Vergara in the first round, causing the native of San Antonio to be knocked down on multiple occasions. Vergara was being pursued by Silva around the cage at one point during the first round, but the American managed to make it to the second round with some mysterious luck. It was in the second round that Vergara made his comeback with a vengeance. Silva appeared to have depleted his fuel supply in the first 5 minutes of the match while he was attempting to finish the race, and he was unable to keep up with Vergara's pace in the second half. The American flyweight knocked out his opponent with a technical knockout victory with less than a minute remaining in the round, which sent the arena into a frenzy of excitement. As a result of their back-and-forth barn burner, both fighters were awarded the title of the fight of the night, and after the fight they shared a heartwarming moment backstage. Up next is everybody's favorite Justin Gaethje versus Rafael Fiziev at UFC 286. I say this in the most flattering way possible. This was among the most stressful fights I can remember watching. Throughout his career, Justin Gaethje has earned more money from post-fight bonuses than a great number of other fighters have made, combined. With his unforgettable fight against Rafael Fiziev at UFC 286, Gaethje won yet another $50,000 bonus, further solidifying his nickname, The Highlight. Gaethje's performance captivated an English crowd in London, where he was competing. Justin Gaethje was coming off a performance against Charles Oliveira that had been less than satisfactory the previous year. In a fight that many people believe Gaethje would be unable to handle, the former interim champion was hoping to get back into the running for the title by defeating Rafael Fiziev, who was a lightweight who was performing exceptionally well. Fiziev got off to a strong start, delivering a number of powerful leg kicks to Gaethje's calf in the first round of the fight. It seemed as though Ataman was simply too quick for his American counterpart, despite the fact that he was the more technically proficient striker. It was during the second round that Gaethje made the necessary adjustments, and he began to experience greater success with his hands. When he landed on Fiziev at will with his powerful hooks, he demonstrated new layers to his game, which was a departure from his typical chaotic approach. Gaethje secured the victory by landing a takedown in the final seconds of the fight, which sealed the decision. The third round was largely similar to the previous 2 rounds. Both Fiziev and Gaethje are among the most captivating competitors on the roster, and it was inevitable that this fight would be a highlight of the competition. At the end of the day, the old guard was able to maintain his position in the top tier of the division by successfully fending off the next generation. Next on the list is number 3, Islam Makhachev versus Alexander Volkanovski at UFC 284. This was not the most consistently entertaining fight on the list. Watch highlights. The two combined for 127 significant strikes in 5 rounds, a total it's not too unusual to see in 3-rounders. But the atmosphere was genuinely special. Alexander Volkanovski was the protagonist here. The undersized champion was looking to topple the man atop arguably the most stacked division in the sport, and his efforts were as absorbing as any cinematic hero. Even if he came up short, his 5th round rally was among the most breathtaking moments 2023 had to offer. Islam Makhachev was equally compelling as an antagonist. At the UFC 284 pay-per-view event held in Perth, Australia, one of the most technical fights of 2023 was the main event. Alexander Volkanovski, the reigning featherweight champion of Australia, was competing against Islam Makhachev, the current holder of the lightweight title, with the intention of claiming that lightweight title and joining the exclusive group of fighters who have reigned as double division champions. In spite of the fact that the judge's decision was controversial, Volkanovski gave Makhachev the most difficult fight of his career. This fight had everything. Alexander Volkanovski made inroads with his crisp striking, and Islam Makhachev finished the round in a solid ground position. The opening round was fairly close, with both fighters maintaining a reasonable distance from one another. In the next two rounds, Volkanovski displayed strong performance. Makhachev, however, dominated the fourth round. It was not clear who was in the lead going to the final frame of the match. The Great knocked down the lightweight champion with 1 minute remaining on the clock. After the first 4 minutes of the round were relatively even throughout the entirety of the bout. Following that, Volkanovski continued to beat Makhachev until the final bell rang. In the aftermath of the fight, both competitors admitted that they were taken aback by one another. In addition to being impressed by Makhachev's striking, Volkanovski was clearly taken aback by the strength and wrestling of his Dagestani opponent. In the end, Makhachev was the one who was awarded the decision by the judges. The decision of the judges caused a rift within the mixed martial arts community, with many advocating for a rematch. It did end up happening on short notice, 11 days to be specific, and it's a shame the sequel ended the way it did. But a good fight can be a knockdown, drag out, and that's exactly what it was. It can also be two of the most skilled guys in the division competing at a level that not many can match. I believe that's exactly what we got at UFC 284. Now on to number 2, Jared Cannonier versus Marvin Vettori. This performance was worthy of a completely sold out arena. We're thankful we got to see the fight, which went down at the UFC Apex in Las Vegas, where top-ranked middleweights Jared Cannonier and Marvin Vettori threw down in the UFC Vegas 75 main event. Both Jared Cannonier and Marvin Vettori have attempted to unseat Israel Adesanya as the reigning champion of the middleweight division, but they have both been unsuccessful. Both fighters have been defeated by the last stylebender in decisions. At the time of their fight at the UFC Apex, Cannonier and Vettori were eager to demonstrate their progress and were hoping to get back into the running for the title. When the Killer Gorilla went southpaw, Vettori was able to catch Cannonier multiple times in the first round. This allowed him to get off to a strong start. Beginning with the second round, Cannonier maintained his traditional stance throughout the fight, and he proceeded to give the Italian Dream a resounding defeat over the course of the subsequent 4 rounds. Vettori's tenacity was the trait that made this fight stand out from the rest. By taking all of Cannonier's thunderous strikes, the Italian demonstrated why he has never been finished in his career. In spite of the fact that he was clearly outmatched, the fact that he maintained his fighting spirit right up until the final bell made this fight a very enjoyable 5-round affair. On top of our list is Jeff Neal versus Shavkat Rakhmonov at UFC 285. For all his considerable skill, Shavkat Rakhmonov is not what you'd call a defensive wizard. Pitting him against a high-powered headhunter like Jeff Neal was guaranteed to produce something spectacular, whether it be Rakhmonov mowing him down like so many others, or Neal sending Rakhmonov's upright chin to Abu Dhabi. Despite Neal grievously missing weight at 175 pounds and clearly suffering for it in the stamina department, viewers were treated to a brutal endurance match. Rakhmonov refused to take a backward step, and Neal refused to stop punching him extremely hard in the face, culminating in a vicious third round that saw both men shrug off catastrophic blows before Rakhmonov strangled his way to a last-minute victory. The fight that took place at UFC 285 at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada, was, in our opinion, the best fight that had taken place last year. Shavkat Rakhmonov and Jeff Neal delivered a slugfest for the ages on the undercard of Jon Jones' much-anticipated heavyweight debut. This fight turned out to be the moment that proved to be the turning point for one of the most intriguing fighters on the planet. Neal's boxing was so sharp that it caused Rakhmonov a lot of trouble throughout the fight. Hands of steel prevailed in every single one of the exchanges that they participated in whenever they entered the pocket. Despite this, he was having a difficult time at close range against his Kazakh opponent, taking a number of kicks to the head and body. During the early stages of the third round, it appeared as though Neal was on the verge of permanently putting Rakhmonov out of commission. However, the unbeaten prospect quickly recovered, and it appeared as though the scorecards of the judges would be difficult to interpret. Nevertheless, in the final stages of the round, the Nomad suddenly locked in a standing neck choke. which compel Neal to tap out of the fight. Despite the fact that the fight reveals some shortcomings in Rachmanov's game, the fact that he was able to maintain his perfect record and finishing rate despite facing significant challenges demonstrates how talented he truly is. As we reflect on the extraordinary battles that define the MMA landscape in 2023, it's clear that the UFC has once again delivered an exceptional year of unforgettable moments. From the local heroics of CJ Vergara to the technical brilliance of Islam Makhachev and Alexander Volkanovski, each fight showcased the heart, skill, and determination that makes MMA the exhilarating sport it is. The Octagon remains a theater of dreams, where fighters rise from adversity and legends are etched into the annals of combat sports history. Thank you for joining us in celebrating the best fights of 2023. Here's to another year of thrilling matchups, unforgettable moments, and the relentless pursuit of greatness inside the Octagon. Until next time, fight fans, keep watching, keep cheering, and may the next year in MMA be even more spectacular than the last.